Imagine standing at an airport and watching a huge airplane race toward a runway. But here's the strange part. That runway wasn't simply built pointing in a convenient direction. Its direction was chosen for a reason that can decide whether an airplane takes off safely or struggles against nature itself. And even more strangely, the runway can seem to change direction from one day to the next. So who decides which way airplanes should fly? So, let's discover why do airports have specific runway directions. With Origin Files Hub. At first, a runway looks like nothing more than a long strip of pavement. But unlike a normal road, it isn't designed mainly around where people want to go. Its most important guide is something much more powerful, the wind. Airplanes usually take off and land facing into the wind. This might sound strange until you understand why. When an airplane moves into a headwind, the air moves faster across its wings. That means the airplane can produce enough lift at a lower speed across the ground, making takeoff and landing easier and safer. And this idea goes back much further than modern airports. When powered flight began in the early 1900s, airplanes did not have long paved runways. Early pilots often used open fields, and they simply chose a direction based on the wind. There was no runway number, no giant airport tower, and often not even a clear boundary showing where the runway began. As airplanes became larger and faster, airports needed something more reliable. Runways became longer, stronger, and eventually paved. But engineers still had the same problem. Which direction should they point them? The answer came from studying the local wind. Airport planners examine wind patterns over long periods. They look at which directions the wind usually comes from and how strong it tends to be. Then they position the runway so airplanes can use favorable winds as often as possible. But here's where things get interesting. Have you ever noticed numbers painted at the beginning of a runway? You might see something like 09, 18, or 27. These numbers are not random. They represent the runway's direction using a magnetic compass heading, rounded to the nearest 10 degrees, with the final 0 removed. So a runway marked 09 points roughly east, while runway 27 points roughly west. And if you look closely, you may discover something even stranger. The same physical runway can have two different numbers, one at each end. That is because an airplane approaching from one direction is traveling toward a completely different compass heading than an airplane using the opposite direction. But airports still cannot control the wind. When the wind changes, pilots may use the opposite end of the same runway. And if the wind becomes strong enough from a different direction, air traffic controllers may choose another runway that gives airplanes a safer approach. This is why the runway direction you see at an airport is not really telling airplanes where they want to go. It is telling them how the sky wants them to arrive. And the next time you see a giant airplane lining up perfectly with a long strip of pavement, remember what is really happening. That straight line on the ground is the result of years of wind measurements, engineering decisions, magnetic directions, and one simple rule of flight. Work with the air, not against it. So that runway you thought was just a road for airplanes was actually designed around something you cannot see. The wind. And perhaps that is the most fascinating part of an airport. The most important thing guiding the aircraft may be completely invisible. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Origin Files Hub for more fascinating stories behind the ordinary things we see every day. And let us know in the comments, what topic should we explore next?